just got done watching this year's Elimination Chamber, which was exclusive on the WWE Network. How does it hold up to previous pay-per-views or with the Elimination Chamber matches compared with previous ones that have happened over the last 13 years? I'd say this was a decent pay-per-view. It's very, how to say this, very surreal yet very rewarding that the WWE is actually starting to produce quality once again with their pay-per-view system. And, you know, for so many years, some pay-per-views would be so lackluster, so uninspiring, felt like there was no originality or just no enjoyment factor. Whereas tonight, or yesterday should I say, because it's a day removed, I felt the pacing never dropped the ball once. A couple of people won that I didn't want to win, but that said, you know, most of my predictions did come true, save for New Day winning, which I'll get to in a moment. But the majority of the pay-per-view, I felt like I got my money's worth from my monthly subscription fee for said network. And since we're talking about the tag team title match, might as well get into that, as this will be the very first WWE tag team title match to ever to be featured in what some consider as the most sadistic structure in professional wrestling and sports entertainment. So we basically have a glorified Texas Tornado match, Texas Tornado tag team match I should say, but just happens to feature 6 teams, all of which are more than worthy, save for New Day, to be tag team championship material. Primetime players are well overdue a run as tag team champions because they've yet to have one. Cesaro and Kidd, I felt, were a little unlucky. Los Matadores, I felt, were just in there just to fill up the numbers. Although there are no rules with the chamber match in regards to how many people can actually come in and assist via the same, with the exception of, only being pinfall or submission, I do find it devalues the match a little when Los Matadores bring in El Torito and Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston bring in Big E acting as backup and support, or if he's part of the tag team championship equation. I mean, last time there was a 3-person tag team championship affair was in WCW with, I think, is it 3 Company? Correct me in the comment section below if you're watching this on YT Blip or on DynamicNight.com, because I'm sure, I know A-Log will have, knowledge on this, because he's a wrestling savant. I mean, if A-Log is not a fan of The Big Bang Theory, and I apologize for this comparison, but A-Log, in terms of wrestling knowledge, he is the Sheldon Cooper of wrestling knowledge. There is nothing that this guy doesn't know. He is the go-to guy for wrestling, and that's why he's awesome. Thank you. 3 counts. That was it. But yeah, I wasn't happy with the finish because Random said something to the effect of earlier, all 3 in that stable of New Day worthy WWE Championship material. All 3 of them. Kofi Kingston, he more than deserves at least one run as WWE Champion. Xavier Woods, give him time to mature physically and mentally. He could be WWE Champion. Big E Langston, he's been Intercontinental Champion, and they don't do anything with him. I think some of the amusing or most impressive moments I saw was Kalisto and El Torito, respectively, climbing to the center of the chamber's ceiling and then just dropping down. I think with Kalisto, I think he was trying to swing around to such a degree where he could actually do a 450 splash, but it just ended up just falling down. The match, like I said, the pacing never stopped with this match, and that's what it needed. Again, not happy with the finish, but can't be right about everything. And now we move on to the next match. This Divas title match, remove Nikki Bella, and this match would have changed nothing, because this match was already awesome. I was very candid while I was watching this match. I've said, Nikki Bella has good athleticism, but she has no wrestling skills to speak of. That's subjective, and I realise that. She's a gorgeous woman. I will not take that away from her, but in my professional opinion, Paige would have been probably the better representative of the Divas division as its champion, but I still maintain that the Divas division needs a fresh face to lead that division, and that fresh face is Naomi, because I think she was on equal pairing with Paige. Nikki Bella just simply doesn't belong in this match, and she's only good for being a valet and nothing more. That's just an opinion. Not happy with the finish. To be honest with you, I wouldn't have minded a situation if Paige and Naomi double pinned each other, and we'd have a situation similar to, not so much the ridiculous thing with Lay Cool, or as me and Mr. Rakaku like to refer to as Lay Tool, but something more on the lines of Chris Jericho and Chyna as co-Intercontinental Champions, where you'd have a situation where both superstars would actually defend the belt on separate occasions. Why can't we have a situation where Paige and Naomi would do that? I'd pay to see that, to be honest with you. Mind you, I'd pay more to see Naomi being given a chance to represent that Divas division, because I think she's over-earned it. Kevin Owens versus the former Doctor of Thugonomics, champion versus champion. This was the match of the night. Say what you will about Cena in terms of his bland, boring, and overused persona and repertoire, although I do like that springboard stunner. That is a a nice little addition to his moveset. He and Owens brought out the best in each other last night. Owens, I'm really impressed with. A guy his size and weight was able to be so agile and so acrobatic. This guy is a major future prospect with WWE, and I only foresee him getting better and actually growing as a competitor. But I have to reiterate, the whole thing where it's cool to, they seem to think it's a cool thing to go after Cena, make a name for yourself, and it's Cena's time to go home. It's like, that is old. Seriously, again, I don't like Cena the character. Cena the person, got no problems with him. Especially what he does with Make-A-Wish. But, I got done with narking on the character a few years ago, because it's like, it's old. It's old school, and not in a good way. There are some things, after a while, they get really old, complacent, and it just becomes so redundant, you know? But 5-star match, easily, and I wouldn't be surprised if at Money in the Bank, when the rematch takes place between these two, it's title for title. Just imagine that. Just imagine Cena coming over to NXT, representing as the champion, or a situation where Owens could come back to NXT with the United States Championship. There's food for thought. So we have an up-and-coming, great potential superstar for the future versus a guy who doesn't know when to quit, smug to the 15th degree, and has a bigger narcissistic, overtoned personality than Tony Stark. Bo Dallas could make Tony Stark look modest. Decent match. For the amount of time that it was on for, it made Neville look extremely good. The only thing I would say is get rid of the superhero gimmick, because I'd rather see a superstar like Neville just go in and do his thing, you know. Kind of like in a similar respects to Steve Austin back in the day. When he got in the ring, didn't have a lot of bravado, he just got on with it, and that's what the people wanted, and that's pretty much what Neville did, so yeah, decent match. The first time the Intercontinental Championship has been put up for grabs in the Elimination Chamber, and it's actually kind of a fitting way to crown a new champion, because of the fact that, you know, there's not really going to be too many screw jobs or interferences, although I found it amusing where, you know, I think someone said Rule 21 of the Elimination Chamber, don't free you know, a yet to be participating Mark Henry, because that just brings in all sorts of problems. And Sheamus, being the douchebag that he is, actually picked the locks and just waited for the right moment. But typical douche heel. I was going with Dolph Ziggler as one of my picks, but then it dawned upon me. Ryback's had yet to win any title in WWE, and for him to get his first singles championship and shut Sheamus up, which was awesome, by the way, you know, he finally managed to get himself onto the championship ladder, and the Intercontinental Championship is what a lot of people refer to as a stepping stone to something greater. I mean, when you look at the likes of those that have worn the Intercontinental title in the past, anybody from Randy Macho Man Savage, The Ultimate Warrior, Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, Triple H, Rock, Austin, Jericho, Angle, RVD, Jeff Hardy, you know, and of course one of the greatest Intercontinental champions of all time, Pat Patterson. You know, this title gets you groomed and ready for when you get onto the big stage to actually become the WWE Undisputed Champion. And like I said in the preview, you know, this is something that A-Log had said years ago. It was too soon for Ryback to be a world champion. He really should start at the mid-card level and win either the United States or the Intercontinental Championship. Now, last year, Dolph Ziggler brought back some relevance to that title because it had been lacking it for so long, and I was so glad not to see King Barrett reclaim that belt, because when he does have that belt, they do nothing with him or the championship. So to get Ryback, who's a very active competitor, who will probably do that title some justice, I think it was a decent result. I mean, Cena is bringing relevance back to the United States Championship for I don't know how long, probably not since Dolph Ziggler or when MVP or Shelton Benjamin held that belt, and that was a few years ago. So very happy with that result, and I like the way that Daniel Bryan was so courteous and so humble just to hand the belt over, and I like for once that there was no, surprise heel turn come along to be like, I'm going to, turn on Bryan, I'm going to make this title worth something, then you had it, because that's just old now. But very happy with that. And then we come to the main event, the WWE Undisputed Championship, featuring Seth, Eric, Skinny Cartman Rollins versus Dean Ambrose. Do you find it ironic that right before the match, Triple H comes along and says Roman Reigns is banned from ringside, yet Kane and the Goon Squad in J&J are allowed there? Contradictions and hypocrisy are a pain, aren't they, Mr. Helmsley? I have not seen a WWE Championship match of this caliber since Punk versus Cena, Michaels versus Cena, or Rock versus Austin. And I always come back to Rock versus Austin because it's that type of scenario where two superstars bring out the absolute best in each other. And because these two know each other so well from their time in the Shield and from their confrontations last fall, leading up, culminating in their first ever main event together on a pay-per-view at Hell in a Cell, you knew you were going to get something because they trusted each other and they knew what they could work off each other. And Ambrose was just so epic to watch. I mean, I always like this thing where he gets thrown into the ropes, but he just bounces back out. It's like, lol, that's nothing. And I'm going to call bullcrap here. And this is something that has got to stop with these kind of U-turn decisions that they do in WWE. The referee was knocked out, so therefore you expect a backup official to be on standby just to be able to still call the match. Because if the referee comes back into the situation, he's going to be dazed and confused, because as far as he's concerned, he may as well have been in New York City or Los Angeles by the time he came round after being knocked out. I mean, when you're an official, you have to be able to call a situation, with a clear head and a calm rationale. And you can't do that if you're flying around, if you just come around floating about thinking you're Superman. Or at least the perception that you think you're Superman, because as far as you're concerned, you're in La La Land. I disagree with the decision being reversed. Yeah, Ambrose did win, like I predicted he would, but not through the means that they did the U-turn on. So, I think we're going to be seeing a situation where it's almost like Los Guerreros stealing the tag team titles, but at some stage I think Ambrose is going to be forced to hand over the undisputed title, even though, in my estimation, he won that fair and square. And ain't it the funny thing? If the roles were reversed, and it was the backup official that came out and counted the pin for Cartman over Ambrose, nobody would say a damn thing. But then again, it's heel crap 101 in WWE. Always has to work in their favor, and the moment something doesn't go in their favor, it's like, oh, no, this is wrong, but goes their way, nobody says a word. I don't know. I'd say this is one of the best pay-per-views I've seen in a while. Definitely an improvement over over Payback. Payback wasn't awful. It was just okay. It catered to what I wanted for what I was looking for in the second post WrestleMania pay-per-view. I'm gonna have to give Elimination Chamber 2015. Hate it when my monitor does that. I'm going to have to give Elimination Chamber 2015 a solid B++. I got everything I needed out of it, and it was just enjoyable. I just would have preferred Ambrose to be officially undisputed champion, for Naomi to win the belt, and to have the New Day dethroned. But other than that, everything was fine. Well, I'll see you later this week for this week's review of SmackDown on SmackBack. But until then, folks, good night from the night.